Sometimes, life introduces us to a person who feels like home, yet fate builds a wall where a bridge should have been. Have you ever met someone and felt as if your souls knew each other long before your names were spoken? As if time paused, but only for a moment, and then, without reason, reality pulled you apart, leaving you wondering, why would something so powerful come into my life, only to disappear? It's not a punishment. It's not a mistake. It's a mirror. You see, the universe doesn't always send you people to keep. Sometimes it sends them to awaken you. That person, the one you can't be with, they are not here to complete your story. They are here to start a chapter within you that you never knew existed. They come to shake the dust off the forgotten corners of your heart, to stir something raw, something real, to remind you of a feeling you buried long ago, the desire to be seen, to be felt, to be alive. And then they leave, not because it wasn't real, but because it was too real to remain untransformed. That pain you feel? It's not just heartbreak. It's growth in disguise. It's the stretching of your soul. It's life showing you the parts of yourself that still long for healing. Sometimes we think we are longing for them, but we are really longing for who we became in their presence. That version of you, the one who dared to feel, to hope, to imagine something greater, that is the version life is trying to make permanent. But it won't happen if you chase the past. It happens when you sit with the ache and listen. It happens when you stop asking, why did they come? And start asking, what did they awaken in me? This is how the universe speaks. Not with answers, but with echoes. Not with permanence, but with presence. Not always through people who stay, but often through those who leave a mark. The ones you can't be with, they are often the ones who shape you the most, because they leave behind something far more powerful than a relationship. They leave behind the spark of transformation. So don't hate the distance. Don't curse the ending. You were never meant to possess them. You were meant to be touched by them deeply so that you could return to yourself wiser, fuller, awake. And maybe one day, when you're no longer chasing ghosts, when you're no longer haunted by what could have been, you'll thank the silence for all it taught you. You'll see, the universe never takes without giving. It just gives differently. There are moments in life when we encounter someone who feels inexplicably familiar. A stranger who somehow sees you in ways no one else has. The connection is undeniable, almost eerie in its depth, as if you've known them long before the first words were ever exchanged. It isn't mere chemistry. It's something deeper, a recognition that seems to echo from somewhere far beneath the surface. In that space, something inside you stirs. It may feel like destiny, like you've finally found the missing piece. But soon, reality disrupts the illusion. Circumstances change, paths diverge, and what once felt so real slips away. It's in that aftermath, in the confusion and the ache, that you begin to ask the question, why would life bring someone so powerful into my experience, only to take them away? The answer lies not in external logic, but in internal truth. The universe doesn't always send people into your life so you can build a life with them. It often sends them to shake something loose within you, to act as a mirror, to trigger parts of yourself that were buried, sleeping, or forgotten. These people arrive as catalysts. Their role isn't to stay forever, but to unlock a door within you. Maybe it's a door you didn't know existed. Maybe it's a door you've been avoiding. Their presence wakes up dormant energy, unprocessed feelings, unhealed wounds, undiscovered strengths. When they look at you, they see something you stopped seeing in yourself. And in that reflection, you remember your own worth, your own desires, your hunger for connection, meaning, and truth. They remind you that you can feel deeply again, that you are still capable of dreaming, of risking, of hoping for something more. Not because they are the answer, but because their presence evokes the question. Their role in your life is to illuminate, not with permanence, but with intensity. Not to stay, but to start something. What begins as a connection to someone else becomes a journey back to yourself. They may not walk beside you for long, but their impact reshapes the landscape of your soul. They challenge your beliefs. They stretch your limits. They break open walls you built long ago to protect yourself. And through that rupture, something new is born, an awakening. It's easy to romanticize these encounters, to believe they were meant to be in the conventional sense, that the connection should have lasted. But life rarely works on the timelines we imagine. These meetings aren't about longevity, they're about depth. They aren't about completion, they're about initiation. The universe doesn't operate with sentimentality. It operates with purpose. And often, that purpose lies in disruption. When someone enters your life and you can't be with them, not because of lack of love, but because of timing, distance, life paths, or irreconcilable differences, it doesn't mean the encounter was meaningless. In fact, it often means the opposite. The more powerful the impact, the more likely it was meant to serve your growth, not your comfort. These people are placed in your path to break patterns, not reinforce them, to help you evolve, not retreat. In their absence, you're left with a strange paradox. You feel loss, yet you also feel more alive. You feel pain, yet that pain contains insight. You miss them, yet you begin to see yourself more clearly than before. That's the essence of the gift they bring. A deeper awareness of who you are when you are fully present, fully vulnerable, fully awake. We often seek relationships that last forever, but the most transformative ones are those that arrive suddenly and vanish just as fast. They are intense, confusing, overwhelming, but they leave you changed. You can't go back to who you were before them. You've seen too much, felt too much, grown too much. They didn't stay, but they left something behind. A seed, a spark, a shift. And that shift was the whole point. Pain is often misunderstood. It's seen as something to escape, to numb, or to silence. But pain is not the enemy, it is the messenger. When someone enters your life and touches a part of you so deeply that their absence feels like a physical wound, what you are feeling is not just loss. It's transformation in motion, because pain, in its rawest form, is a sign that something meaningful happened. Something awakened, something moved, and that movement is the beginning of change. When we lose someone we deeply connected with, someone who stirred our soul, the aftermath can feel like a collapse. It feels like something inside you was ripped open. You question what went wrong. You question yourself. You question the timing, the choices, and the universe. You replay memories over and over, trying to rewrite the outcome, trying to understand how something that felt so powerful could become something you are forced to live without. But within that torment is something more essential than answers. Growth. Pain forces you inward. It pulls your attention away from the outside world and back to your own center. And in that center lies the truth you've been avoiding, denying, or simply unaware of. Pain from lost connections is not just a response to what was, it's a doorway to what can be. It breaks down illusions. It peels back the layers of distraction, and it leaves you face to face with your own soul. The discomfort is not cruelty. It is clarity. When you allow yourself to feel the ache without numbing it, without covering it with distractions or false hope, something begins to change. Slowly, you begin to see how much of your identity was entangled in another person. You begin to recognize the parts of yourself that you had given away, sometimes willingly, sometimes unknowingly, in the pursuit of connection. You begin to understand that the pain you feel is not just because they left, but because their presence showed you what you were missing all along. Yourself. Every ending, no matter how brutal, holds a mirror to our internal world. The pain it leaves behind is a message from the unconscious, asking you to pay attention. Maybe it's asking you to finally heal the wound that made you believe you needed someone else to feel whole. Maybe it's asking you to confront the fears you've kept hidden, fear of abandonment, fear of not being enough, fear of being truly seen. Maybe it's calling you to reclaim parts of your soul that you had forgotten. Transformation is not gentle. It's not wrapped in comfort. It often comes wrapped in grief, loss, confusion. But that's because something within you is dying, an old belief, an old identity, an old pattern. And something new is trying to emerge. The soul does not evolve through ease. It evolves through confrontation, not with others, but with the self. The person you can't be with is not just a character in your story. They are a trigger, a symbol, a spark. Their role was to shake you out of your slumber and into awareness. You may think the pain means you're broken, but the truth is the pain means you're breaking open, and that opening is necessary. Growth doesn't happen in comfort zones. It happens in moments of raw vulnerability. It happens when you feel lost, when you feel like you're falling apart, and yet, somehow you're still breathing, still feeling, still here. The journey through that pain teaches you to become your own anchor, to find stability not in someone else's presence, but in your own. Teaches you resilience, teaches you depth. It reveals to you the capacity you hold to feel so much, to care so deeply, and still choose to stand up and move forward. That's strength, that's power, that's evolution. You may look back one day and realize that this pain was the turning point. That without it, you would have remained stuck in an old version of yourself. That without it, you would have continued searching for meaning outside of yourself, rather than within. You may come to see that the person you couldn't be with wasn't meant to stay, they were meant to ignite. And through that ignition, your entire inner world was set into motion. There are moments in life when someone enters your world and everything begins to shift. Not because they fix you or save you, but because they reflect back to you a version of yourself you had forgotten. You see your softness through their eyes. You hear your own laughter in a way that feels unfamiliar and yet deeply true. You feel alive again, not because they gave you life, but because they reminded you it was always there. That feeling, that spark, is not about them. It's about the parts of yourself they helped you remember. Unavailable love carries a strange kind of clarity. When you are drawn to someone you can't be with, the longing that rises isn't always for the relationship. Sometimes it's for the way you felt when you were around them. It's for the moments when your guard came down, when you let yourself be vulnerable, open, real. It's not just about who they were. It's about who you became in their presence. That version of you, unfiltered, present, emotionally awake, is not something they brought into existence. It's something they revealed. There are parts of ourselves we hide, parts that got buried under routine, disappointment, fear. We forget the younger version of us who used to dream without limits. We forget the inner strength we once carried so easily. We forget how it felt to speak without shrinking, to hope without hesitation, to love without the need to control the outcome. And then someone comes along and disrupts that forgetting. They walk into your life and, without even trying, they light up all the dark corners. They don't need to say much. It's in their presence, in the way they look at you, in the way they listen, in the way they simply exist. And suddenly you feel seen. But the paradox is cruel. The person who helped you rediscover yourself is often the one you cannot keep. Maybe the timing is wrong. Maybe their path pulls them in a different direction. Maybe life places barriers that neither of you can move. And so, they slip away, gently or suddenly, and you're left alone with all the emotions they awakened in you. At first, it feels like something vital has been taken. But over time, you start to realize that what they left behind was not emptiness. It was awareness. That awareness is sacred. It forces you to confront how much of yourself you had disconnected from. It brings you face to face with your own desires, your own truth, your own longing. And while it may seem like the pain is about missing them, it's more about the realization that you missed you, the real you, for far too long. You missed the aliveness they reminded you of. You missed the freedom you felt when you stopped performing and simply allowed yourself to be. This is why unavailable love is so powerful. Not because of what it offers, but because of what it awakens. The lesson it brings is not about chasing someone who cannot stay. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself that only surfaced because they did. It's about recognizing that the most meaningful discoveries in life often come disguised as heartbreak, and that the one you can't be with may have been the one your soul needed in order to evolve. Their presence shattered your routine, stirred your emotions, broke your patterns, and through that disruption, something valuable emerged. You remembered your capacity to feel, to connect, to dream again. You remembered that your emotions are not weaknesses, but signals. That your longing is not desperation, but depth. That the way your heart responded to them is not just about them. It's about what you are capable of when you stop protecting yourself from life. Unavailable love is a mirror. It doesn't just show you the other person. It shows you your forgotten courage, your dormant creativity, your hidden tenderness, all the things that were waiting for the right moment, the right spark to be seen again. And while the connection may fade, what it reveals does not have to. You are left not just with memories, but with a roadmap, a clearer understanding of who you truly are when you are not holding back, when you are not afraid, when you are fully awake to your own existence. Growth rarely comes wrapped in comfort. It often arrives in silence, in uncertainty, in the echo of things that didn't go the way you hoped they would. It comes in the spaces where love once lived, and now absence lingers. Emotional discomfort is one of life's most misunderstood gifts. We are taught to run from it, to numb it, to distract ourselves from it. But those moments of pain and confusion are not accidents. They are invitations, quiet, insistent calls from within that something must change. When someone you deeply cared for cannot stay in your life, it stirs a storm inside you. You feel lost, unsteady, like a piece of your world no longer fits. But within that disorientation, there is something powerful unfolding. It is the breaking of an illusion, the dissolving of an old identity, the soft crumbling of everything you thought you needed in order to be whole. The ache is not just about what's missing, it's about what is trying to be born. Discomfort cracks you open. It forces you to ask difficult questions. Who am I without this person? What do I believe about myself when no one is there to reflect me back? What parts of me have I ignored while chasing love, approval, or validation? These are not easy questions. They don't offer quick answers, but they lead you deeper into yourself. They strip away what is false, what is borrowed, what is no longer serving you. They show you where the real work must begin. You can't grow if you're always comfortable. You can't evolve if you never confront the parts of yourself that are clinging to stories that no longer serve you. The discomfort you feel when love is lost, when connection fades, when things don't go according to plan, that's the ground where transformation begins. It's not a punishment, it's a turning point. It's life pulling you inward so you can remember who you are without all the noise. Emotional discomfort teaches you to sit with yourself, to stop reaching outward for rescue, to learn how to hold your own heart when it's heavy. It reveals your strength not in moments of perfection, but in moments of chaos. You discover that you can cry and still move forward, that you can feel shattered and still be whole, that the depth of your pain is not a weakness. It's a sign of how deeply you've lived, how bravely you've opened, how much you're capable of feeling. This kind of growth is quiet. It doesn't always look like progress. It often looks like stillness, solitude, even sorrow. But underneath the surface, something is shifting. Your soul is rearranging itself. Your priorities are changing. Your understanding of love, of worth, of self is being rewritten. And as painful as it is, you begin to see that you are being refined, not ruined. There comes a point when you realize that the pain you're feeling is not here to destroy you. It's here to show you what still needs your attention. It highlights your patterns, your fears, your wounds. It shows you the parts of yourself you've neglected while trying to be what others needed. It reveals the stories you've told yourself about who you are and what you deserve. And when you start to see all that clearly, you also begin to understand that healing is not about fixing what's broken. It's about remembering what's true. You don't grow by avoiding pain. You grow by walking through it with honesty, by letting it break down your defenses, by allowing it to teach you where your boundaries need to be stronger, where your self-love needs to be deeper, where your voice needs to be louder. It's through discomfort that you learn what matters most. Not surface validation, but inner peace. Not fleeting attention, but genuine connection. Not perfection, but presence. Every time you survive another wave of emotional discomfort, you become more grounded in yourself. You begin to trust your ability to feel and still stand. You learn that emotions are not enemies. They are guides. They point you toward the truth. They show you what your soul has outgrown. They prepare you for what's next. Not by removing the pain, but by making you strong enough to hold it. And in that strength, a new version of you begins to rise. One that isn't afraid of falling because they've already learned how to rise. Letting go is one of the hardest things a person can do. It feels unnatural, like surrendering to something you never wanted to accept. But there are times in life when holding on causes more damage than release. When a person, a relationship, or a moment in time has served its purpose, clinging only delays the inevitable. It keeps you trapped in a loop of memory, hope, and longing, where nothing new can enter because you're too full of what once was. Letting go is not an act of giving up. It is an act of deep self-respect. It is a recognition that your journey must continue, even if some cannot walk beside you. You may try to resist it. You may try to bargain with time, replaying every word, searching for what you could have done differently. You may even try to stay stuck in that pain because it's the last thing connecting you to what you lost. But the truth is, the moment you begin to let go, you make space for something else. Not necessarily another person, but a new version of you. One that isn't carrying the weight of yesterday. One that understands that love isn't only about who stays. It's also about what you learn when someone leaves. Letting go teaches you how strong you really are. It teaches you how to trust your own steps, even when the path ahead is unfamiliar. It calls you to stand in your own presence and realize that you are not defined by who you've lost, but by how you choose to rise. The emotions will still come. The waves of memory, the ache of absence, the sting of unanswered questions. They will visit you. But each time they do, you'll meet them with a little more peace. Because you'll start to realize that what left you did not take your wholeness with it. There's a kind of freedom that only comes when you stop holding on to what doesn't hold you back. When you stop trying to make sense of someone else's silence. When you stop bending yourself to fit into a space you've outgrown. Letting go is not just about walking away. It's about walking back to yourself. It's about reclaiming the energy you poured into something that could never reflect it fully. It's about recognizing that your time, your heart, your presence are sacred, and they deserve to be met with the same depth they offer. When you begin to let go, your perspective starts to shift. You stop asking why it ended and start asking what it taught you. You begin to see that endings are not failures, but transitions. That every closed door is guiding you towards something you haven't seen yet. That the pain you feel is not a sign of defeat, but of growth. You realize that your attachment was never to the person alone. It was to the story you created, the future you imagined, the comfort you craved. And when that story dissolves, you are left with a blank page. Painful, yes, but also full of possibility. The act of letting go is not one final motion. It happens in layers, in moments, in breaths, in the quiet decisions you make each day to no longer reach out, no longer wait, no longer define yourself through someone else's presence or absence. It's in the way you learn to sit with your feelings without letting them control you. It's in the way you choose peace over chaos, reality over fantasy, truth over illusion. You begin to recognize your own patterns, the ways you held on out of fear, the ways you abandoned yourself trying to keep someone else close. With each layer you release, you begin to feel lighter. Not right away and not always all at once. But slowly the weight shifts, the grief softens, the silence feels less sharp, and what's left is something honest. A version of you that has faced loss and still stands, that has known disappointment but still believes in love, that has walked through fire and now carries light. Letting go becomes not a mark of weakness, but of wisdom. It means you've come to understand that healing doesn't come from rewriting the past, but from choosing to live fully in the present.